We have an opening poll that we just like to take a pulse of where people are coming from around the world. So this is very exciting. I'm Denny Stockley. I'm the president of the Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. And we're absolutely delighted to have you here. This is our keepteaching.ca. We do a weekly webinar at this point in time and in response to COVID-19. And I always like to think, and I started early on in the sessions, you know, to be kind to one another, and we're all dealing with things differently. And we thought this was a good time to really look at hands-on learning, because we know people are starting now to prepare for the fall. We also know some of our colleagues are saying, what do you mean the fall? We're not even through summer yet or spring term, and that's great. So this is what the idea is. We're going to come up with different strategies together, look at different things as a group, and then we always post the video afterwards. It is recorded. I just wanted to put a small little plug in for those who are STLHE members. I will be posting in the chat a registration for our AGM next Thursday, June 11th at 1 p.m. It's very important if you are a member of STLHE to be there, because that's where we ratify our new members of the board, including the president role, so very important. And this is also where we ratify the budget and where we give our volunteer board the mandate to go forward for another year. So if you are available, and if you have others in your office or areas you work that are also members of STLHE, ask them to register as well, and that would be absolutely fantastic. As I was mentioning at the beginning, this session on emergency strategies is all about hands-on learning, and I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn to start us off. Thank you.
Welcome everyone for coming for a discussion specifically about hands-on learning. This is a collaborative session, so what we're going to be doing is sharing resources and through a Google Doc approach. So people will be posting resources, sharing ideas, and then going into breakout rooms that are going to be facilitated. And by going into the breakout rooms, that allows you to have more in-depth discussion, and we'll be grouping those breakout rooms based on disciplines as closely as we can to specific areas. So one of the things you'll note is in our opening poll, I do ask you what areas you're interested in. That helps us know what the groupings are going to be in terms of specific areas and how we may end up grouping them. In addition to that, what I wanted to let you know is that we'll be shortly posting our Google Doc as well. And in addition, we have a link that's going into the chat for the STLHE AGM. So just a reminder, if you are an STLHE member, or if you're just even curious, you're welcome to kind of learn more about it. But the STLHE AGM is going to be next week, so just a reminder about that. And I'm also looking forward to our discussion today. Hands-on learning presents a challenge because we typically do it in a context that looks a particular way. There's often a large number of people in that room, and we also often have students going into spaces or places or placements where they're interacting a lot with people. Given the spread of COVID is an in-person, interpersonal kind of spread, that means that we're limiting often the context that we can work in. It's also disrupting things like timelines and abilities to plan. So we have a lot of disruption going on, particularly in the hands-on learning realm. So what we wanted to do is talk today about the strategies. So in terms of the Google Docs, we do have 3 Google Docs, and currently we're under 100 people in this session, which means you're able to go into all 3. But if we do get close, we're at 92 right now, please, once you look through one, or if you're not as interested in one of those Google Docs, just keep that one closed. And then that way we don't end up maxing out the 100 that we're allowed in a Google Doc. So there are 3 sets of Google Docs. There's one that is on the topics, that is animal through to relational, so the first 13 topics. Then we have human health and anatomy, and then we have STEM. And I'm just going to show you what the results are of our opening poll so far. So if I'm switching there, in our opening poll, what you'll be seeing is that we do have people joining from across places. We have Nova Scotia, Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, British Columbia, and Qatar. And we also have somebody from Granada West University, so welcome. In addition to that, our roles are students, dean, department leader, predominantly educators, teaching center leaders, teaching educational technology support, educational developers, department staff, and then other groups as well, including directors of experiential learning. In terms of campuses, most have closed access or are being restricted. There is some that are encouraged but not required to work from home. In terms of the fall, 46% are planning for all being online, and so that can present a great deal of challenge for hands-on learning, as we were just talking about, because a lot of that context has traditionally not been online. Sometimes it has for simulations, but a lot of it has not traditionally been online. 24% are moving some online, and 17% are still in discussion. This will bounce a little bit as new things come in, but what you'll see here at the bottom is we have STEM is 34% of the individuals here. Human health and anatomy is 25%. And then we have additional topics all the way through. So you may end up in a bit of a mixed cohort. I'm going to have some extra breakout rooms. So if you want to break out into a subgroup, we'll be able to. But what I'm hoping to do is in a moment, a few minutes, send you out a specific one that asks for your name and which topic you want to be assigned to. This opening poll did not include your name. So once you've gone into the Google Docs and entered in some ideas, please let me know via the sign up poll which one you want to be in. So I'm going to put the links again into the chat because we've had some new people join us. There are 3 Google Docs. There is your hands-on learning, which is 1 through 13. If you view here the document outline, you'll be able to kind of navigate through, or you can use the search function. And by going through this, you're able to go in and provide insight into some of the options. So for instance, automotive, you can speak to some of the challenges. You can also talk to some of the resources or strategies that you have. These might be things that you're doing on your campus or your institution. These might be things that you've read about, but please put in any of the resources in that you've come across. We also have a document for STEM. We've included in there engineering, biology, chemistry, physics, math, mining, water resources. And this is at both the college and the university level as well. And you can see here there are some existing resources, but please continue to add. And then questions around even things about like how we're going to confirm learning. The final one is number 15, which is human health and anatomy. That's nursing, medicine, physical therapy, occupational therapy, massage, paramedic, midwifery, diagnostic, medical devices, pharmacy, anything that has to do with the human beings and the human body, which is right now one of the high demand fields. A lot of these other ones are as well, but this one also has the additional challenge of if you have a person interacting with a person, by at this point within the COVID context, there's a potential risk there. So thinking a bit about how that happens. So we have 3 Google Docs, and we'll be spending our first kind of basically up until 20 after, so the next 12 minutes in these Google Docs, adding in resources, thinking about which ones. If you are going to sign up for one of these rooms, that's really helpful. And I have most of my facilitators been assigned to one of the topics. I have a couple that are just wonderful volunteers who I'm going to assign once I know what the distribution is. So in terms of that, we'll wait and see what the distribution is. Thanks, Tim. So that's where we're going with that. So in terms of it, you have your 3 Google Doc links in your chat. And in addition to that, you have the breakout room sign in, and I'm just going to paste that back in. We have now have more than 100 people here. So if you are not interested, if you're not in a STEM field, just make sure you don't open the STEM Google Doc, and that allows all the people who are interested in STEM to be able to access that Google Doc as well. Any of these resources.
And Carolyn, in the, sorry to interrupt, but there was a request in the chat if we could do a cross-disciplinary breakout. Is that possible at this time, or are we?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So we'll probably have at least one cross-disciplinary breakout because just how the numbers have gone. We'll be basically having STEM, we'll have it health, and then we'll try to have a couple of more if people would like, but then the remaining ones would be in that larger group. So if I go back to our opening poll, just for that breakout, We can see that like animal, there's 5 there, so they could have a conversation, and children and youth, but then there's some that have just a few. So if there's a specific group that would like to be broken out of these ones, we'll see that in the sign up as well. And then we have great facilitators that have flexibility like Tim, who will facilitate any of those kind of multi-topic groups.
Thank you.
Caroline, I was pulled out of the room.
Yes, everybody was.
Oh, okay, so it's not only me. I will just didn't know. Okay, okay.
Yes, everybody, our rooms are closed. If you haven't experienced the abruptness of a breakout room, it is like somebody just suddenly teleported you out of the room and you're back in with me. So welcome back into the breakout room. Mid-sentence. Sometimes last week I was mid-sentence and the breakout room closed. So what we will be having today is just a conversation around the 30-second highlights of the discussions. So the ones that I have as topics from the breakout rooms, and my apologies for those who came hoping for a very specific focus discussion. I hope you did find the cross-disciplinary one helpful. The topic areas that we had as final groups were animal clinical, a creative design kind of one, cross-disciplinary human health anatomy, STEM 1 and STEM 2. And in terms of those topics, I wanted to go through and get the 30-second highlights. So if animal clinical can give us a highlight, then Tim from children and youth, then the creative one, I forgot to put that on the list. All right, children and youth, and creative, then cross-disciplinary, human health, Lisa, STEM, Brian, and STEM 2, Dina. And I wasn't sure for cross-disciplinary if that was Yonel or another individual. So if the facilitator for each group or the reporter for each group could give us a 30-second highlight, that would be fabulous. So animal and clinical, start us off.
So I'll step up and talk to the animal clinical. We discussed a lot about hands-on being very difficult with animals in an online situation. But we did talk about taking videos, students demonstrating things at home and taking videos and sending them to the instructor, doing a lot of videos and pre-lab talks beforehand. So then we send the we have those available to the students, and when they do come on campus, hopefully that they will be able to just do a lot of intensive hands-on learning and labs for maybe a short period of time.
Mm-hmm. So that strategy of videos where you can, demonstrating by video if you can, and then when they do come on, being very focused on what absolutely had to be hands-on in person that time. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, there will be access to the Google Docs. They will be then linked on the keepteaching.ca website. But thank you for that from the animal clinical group. Thank you, Pamela. How about from children and youth? Tim, can you give us a report from your group?
Absolutely, thank you very much. I had the opportunity to represent the child and youth group representing, we had practitioners, professionals from Nova Scotia, Quebec, Ontario, and Alberta. What's fascinating about this particular discipline, this particular area is, it's dealing with early childhood education, it's dealing with child growth and development, yet it is so contingent on provincial regulations and provincial guidelines right now with respect to daycares, day homes, access to children, because these are practitioners and programs and areas that rely upon experiential learning, rely upon placements, field placements, observation of children. So it's different. We had a couple of the participants who were in provinces where again all that stuff is shut down. So though these programs are really looking for how are they going to actually make it an authentic learning experience for the learners when it's dependent upon the service learning, it's dependent upon access to the community and access to children. So it's a group that's really looking at looking for ideas. We didn't get into too many solutions right now just because of the way things are going. It's just the different realities that are there that are going on. They've been dealing, with again some of the seminar things, but what's most critical for this, and it comes into play with respect to provincial licensing too, is making sure that the service learning opportunities, the field placements are there. So in 2-year programs, the second years, programs, those going into second year, they had their first years disrupted, and then in the 4-year programs, of course, the years 1 to 3 still have some time to compensate, but it's the upper levels who again are facing some challenges this coming year. So lots of challenges in this, and the thing to bring forward, and I'm sure it applies to some of the other sort of human focused areas, is when you lose access to sort of the people you serve, how do you continue your programming?
Yeah. And I think that's very key, is that this actually has implications on licensures and accreditations and a lot of those pieces, particularly including with children and youth. So thank you so much, Tim, for that highlight. And on to creative design. And this one didn't have a set facilitator. So if somebody was there that can give us a summary.
Hi there, my name's Lee. And there were only 4 of us in our group, and some of us had different sort of, we were sort of different, had different issues, different sort of situations, but generally we discussed some of the highlights, like the strategies for the difficulties of things like, stained glass weaving and sculpture and painting and drawing, and how do you teach when usually you're over the shoulder with students, very close proximity. Sometimes you're sharing materials, or the tools that are available at the university that would not be available at home, and things like that, the safety of materials at home. So some of the resources around if students are at home, things like using their phones to record or to show the work that they're doing, live video with students, meetings to try and see the kinds of work that they're doing at home, the software that they can download from home, free software, and the issues around that. Maybe even potentially opening up parts of the university for students who are in campus to do like a partial, like maybe they could go to a lab, for example, if that lab was safe, things like that, or a studio space. But then, there's a bunch of different issues that we're dealing with. Not all courses can run. And then one person from York, Genevieve, sent us a document that is helpful. And that's basically it. Issues around software and things, and making sure that that instructors are all on the same page, potentially doing like teaching 15-minute teaching sessions to practice using software and things like that to help with online teaching and working with teams. Yeah.
And the idea of just how do you have access? How do you have safety with access, depending on the materials and things like that. And thank you very much. And if there is a document that is being willing to be shared, happy to host a link to it through this process and through Keep Teaching or on this Google Doc. So thank you so much for that. And I appreciate the summary, Lee. On to cross-disciplinary. And I wasn't sure if one of the facilitators took that, who was potentially interested in facilitating, or if there was just somebody else. So who can I give a summary for cross-disciplinary?
Sure, I'll do that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say I was thrilled to be in a breakout room with such creative people that care so much about what they do. And so despite the fact that we were all from different disciplines, I think we all came at it with the same kind of problem solving perspective. Had some really good insights. I think one was the use of videos, which I think somebody else mentioned, but one idea I thought was great was the idea of using a GoPro and filming yourself going through the motions and not always doing it right, but making mistakes as well, and then having students diagnose errors and be able to write lab reports based on the video. I think a couple of important points on access. We were talking about international students or students that would normally come for placements, and then access to internet. So one of my colleagues mentioned a survey that they did that asked about internet connection and best times and kind of grouping people based on their location or their time zone. And also what kinds of software and download speeds we have for internet so that we know what students are going to be able to access. Another really important piece I thought was the industry being prepared for students coming out with less experience. It isn't entirely our burden to understand what's happening. And so having the industry be prepared for perhaps needing some bridging. So new employees coming into the workplace are probably going to need a little bit more hands-on, whether that's the university doing a bridging program or whether it's industry taking some of that on. But I thought that was really a good idea. And also having students make some on the job videos, or industry professionals making some videos in their workplace that they would be willing. So if you reach out to members of your industry, you can expand the knowledge base that you have.
Thank you so much. And that's so helpful. And the idea of just capturing things by videos, both instructors, students, and as well as people in the industry. Thank you so much. I do know that we're after the hour. Those who are facilitators, I do appreciate if you could stay or send me a quick video clip of your summary and then we'll piece them together. And yeah, it's the opportunity to ask questions about what happens to students that are in different time zones. There was a comment in the chat also about students that are in other cities. So, and can they borrow each other's labs? Can you go to a chemistry lab in the lab that you're in, a city that you're in, rather than halfway across the country or the world? Lisa, I have you for human health, and then I have Brian and Dina on the STEM 1 and STEM 2. If you mind providing our summaries, we'll make sure this is recorded. Those who have to run, the summaries are being recorded. And you're welcome to stay and listen as well. So Lisa on human health.
Thanks, Carolyn. It's a tall order getting me to do anything in 30 seconds, let alone trying to talk for only 30 seconds, but I'll see what I can do for you. Just wanted to echo and share some compliments and gratitude for the folks in the room talking about health as well, a very creative, engaged, passionate group. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm just attempting to play broken telephone and share their good suggestions with all of you. So we did have a lot of conversations about options and alternatives. So one example might be for students who can't necessarily engage in a quote unquote normal practicum, who knows what that means these days, but who can't physically be at a practicum. There was a discussion about potentially offering the opportunity to do an intensive research project. So of course, this may not be the same as hands-on skill development or completing or demonstrating hands-on skills, but giving them the opportunity to do some research with the goal, as other folks had said, of creating something that can be applied. So a lot of what we do in health and of course in other areas is to help students develop real world skills and things they can use later on. So this intensive research project may be one option for that. The product might be a manual or a resource or something that they could use and take with them elsewhere. But again, learning both the process as well as the product. And there was also a lovely shout out to our librarians. Our librarians on campus are an excellent resource for a lot of these things. They're great, of course, for help with research, but they do a lot of great work around teaching and learning as well. So I'm a liaison developer to the libraries. So of course I'm biased to give a shout out, but there was lots of conversation about research and librarians on campus. Questions about simulations. Again, recognizing these may not be identical to skill development, but may provide other avenues for practicing skill development. They may be lower stakes because you're not working with a real person. So you have other opportunities to practice. For example, you can make mistakes in this environment that you may not be able to or want to make in other areas. Conversations about reconsidering perhaps our learning outcomes. So there might be an opportunity to demonstrate, but I shared an example from York, and a couple others shared these examples too. It's not just demonstrate, but it might be describe. So if a student is able to describe a process that they would take, again, it's not the physical tactile ability that they're demonstrating, but metacognitively, they are telling you how they might approach a process. So that might be an opportunity as well. And good comments about often these types of hands-on learning or this type of skill development or demonstration doesn't happen in isolation. So can students continue to work in groups and get peer feedback? And what does that look like? Whether it's filming a video, like many of you have said, and offering feedback asynchronously, or being together in a Zoom room and offering that synchronously. Mm-hmm. Options for, again, flexibility, options for completion. What options can we give to students to complete the required work? Some of this was covered in the great earlier comments about things like access to internet even, and what does that mean? And so are there other ways that students can complete the assignments that you have? There was a comment about instructional YouTube videos or other videos that instructors create for their students. So the GoPro example could be one. But that also means that students have options where they can watch it on their own time. More self-paced learning might help with the internet issue if they can't stream video live. And if you have a small class, maybe some live one-on-one coaching. This came from an instructor who does have a smaller class size, so has that potential advantage, but doing some one-on-one coaching, maybe via Zoom. And I'll just add to end, there was a conversation about how best or how most fairly to assess student learning. How do we assess this demonstration of skill development? And we had a quick conversation about open book exams, maybe collaborative work, collaborative assessments, again, peer feedback, but thinking that in some of these assessments, maybe there isn't a right answer or a Googleable or searchable answer, and that every student will demonstrate or describe differently, which may have its advantages, but of course is also more challenging for assessment as well. So I hope my group that I covered that as fairly and as robustly as possible. I know it wasn't quick, but thanks so much, everyone. Great feedback and great learning today.
And thank you very much, Lisa, for that summary. And I just put some of the notes in here into the Google Doc, but I do appreciate the nuances of what you were raising. Brian, I believe you're STEM 1, and then Dina STEM 2.
Yeah, thanks. So our group, we identified three of the main issues from that group being access and connectivity issues, which I see was raised a little bit earlier, I think from the health group, which was great, or the cross-disciplinary one. Also what to do with field labs as well. So even when it's not just in a lab setting, but actually out in the field. And the main one that we really spent most of our time discussing was deal with academic integrity in that online setting. So we did focus on some different strategies, particularly for things like for multiple choice quizzes, having them make sure they're timed, maybe creating a pool of questions and having them presented in a random order for the students. So not every student is necessarily receiving the exact same set of questions at the exact same time. We discussed using an academic honesty contract. So having the students sign a document ahead of time just to ensure that they are in fact obeying the rules laid out. We also talked a little bit, I think it was mentioned, changing how the questions are presented or worded. And so moving up Bloom's taxonomy a little bit to some of that more applying base. So instead of just having the students list the steps, the example was for math equations. So the issue was a lot of these third-party apps, students can basically take a picture of an equation and it will solve the equation for them just step by step. But instead of just having them show the steps, explain the thought process as to what those steps actually mean, why they're taking those steps as they're moving through lines of these different equations. So as a way to show that they're actually applying what they learned instead of just spewing it back onto a page. We did get a little bit into some of the field labs. So talking about one instructor was considering taking his own camera out into the field and taking pictures himself of what he would normally want the students to do, and then maybe have them do some sort of identification or work with those pre-made pictures that he contributed himself there. That was really the bulk of what we got. One person sent a link to the Taylor Institute from the University of Calgary and a lot of their great online assessment guides that they've created. And I think that was a helpful resource for those in our group as well.
Mm-hmm. And there's some really good work on assessment. University of Calgary stands out. There's also, I believe Ryerson has another one, like thinking through the different options that there are for assessments, and definitely moving up Bloom's, because as we know, human skills are in the creative applying thinking. Those aren't yet able to be done by apps, but looking something up, repeating a definition, finding the steps, those ones can be. And so I think thinking about what level that is at applies across all the disciplines. Thank you so much for the summary, Brian. Lastly, Dina, can you take us home with around STEM 2?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I thank everyone in the team, in the group that where we met in our discussion STEM 2, and it was really the enthusiasm that I've seen and felt from them that's really was very helpful and very inspiring. Let's say that. So our discussions revolved around 4 points. The first point was brought up as the field work, and which we took further into the labs, and we were focused we talked about how to have this, give the students a immersive experience in the field work and in the labs. So again, I think Brian said something along these lines, that we are at Queen's, we're trying to give students this experience by having a certain head setup that the students communicate with the instructor while he's doing the field work or the experiment, so that they can ask him, okay, why don't we look from this side? Why don't we look from this side? So this would give him and give the students a feeling that they are actually in this on site, and they're doing the things themselves. And after that, they can get the data set and analyze it as a regular as they usually do. Another thing was the simulations and there was some ideas about, okay, why don't we have a nationwide creative list of resources of simulations available, or this stuff. And this, I think this is a project, an action plan or action item that we as EDC can adopt, because it's a very good idea, a nationwide list that everybody can use. And on this point of simulations, actually, I don't know if this is known or not, but some of the research softwares, really fancy ones, are providing some of the teaching simulation for students. So it says teaching simulators. Some of them are totally free. Some of them maybe would be very cheap. But we tried this and it's working. And some of the simulation providing companies are helping with that. Another thing was mentioned along the field work and labs is the virtual reality, and I think virtual reality is one of the highest potential use in most of our labs, because it provides like Labster and the other companies are providing the same thing. The second thing that we talked about was assessment, and there was a discussion around proctoring or not proctoring. So some universities are against the proctoring because it's sort of unfair. Some students don't have the facilities that they can have, that they can go through proctoring exams, and this will deprive them from their right to have the exam in a fair setting. So the institutions doing this are moving towards project-based assessment, which is individualized assessment, and so this is they're thinking about along these lines. As for Proctor software, some of the universities adopted that. Queen's is one of them. We've been trying it for some time now in the summer course, but I think we're moving towards this direction. So it's another option to look at. And also the third point we discussed is how can we mix asynchronous with synchronous sessions. So what are the things that we need to record and we have to make it available, and what are the things that we need to have it synchronous, like the labs, how to put students in groups and do the labs. So this is one of the things, another thing, especially with big numbers. One of our presenters was 2,000 students, which is huge. So we need to how to break them down into rooms or different setups. The fourth thing that actually, this is when you pulled me out, but I like this point very much, so I'd like to end with it. The review the course outcomes, and I think this is a key point for when we're looking into remote teaching, because we need to look into the course outcomes and remove any extras. And when I say extras, it doesn't mean that things that we really don't need, but things that we can maybe covered in courses in the following year or in the following term, or we can do it intentionally. We know that we can't give it right now, we can move it to the following year. And some padding course outcomes we can remove, just to alleviate, to remove the stress from both the faculty member and the team helping him, because we can't put all the stuff in this year. So this basically was the main things that we're talking about, but I highly recommend that we look into this curating list for resources for the whole everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. There is one database I do have a link to that has some of the simulations, but there's just so many options out there. But I think having that idea of a spot that we can actually include either a link to existing databases or having something that is a link. There are specific examples for simulations you'd like to include. Please keep them in this Google Doc for now, as well as I will be adding more into Keep Teaching. So you can always reach edc_communications at STLHE.ca, and that email address is on the keepteaching.ca website. Thank you so much today for all our speakers, our hosts, our facilitators, all the people who shared their ideas in these discussion groups, and we're moved into breakout rooms, a little bit technologically bumpy, but we got there. So thank you so much for today. And I appreciate everybody's time, and this recording as well as these Google Docs will be on the keepteaching.ca website. So have a good day, all the best. And the ideas here around academic integrity and assessment and what do we need to focus on and what has to be synchronous and asynchronous are absolutely key in this time, and they reflect the conversations I've been having as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.